Let's talk about what we want to see next week. We do have we used our coins, yeah. So we can have side by side here. Let's get this out of the way. I don't care. Okay, let's get into this. Let's talk about what we want to see. Let's go over last week real quick. And then we'll kind of get into this real quick. So I actually think I'm more I'm more bearish and bullish on stuff, and we'll kind of get into that in a second. What I was talking about last week. Let me see. I remember talking about this week. I wanted to see this, and I expected us to push up. And I think this week, I think what dominated this personally, if I can remember correctly, we pushed. I think mid in the week we started here on the day, and I had a feeling because we started here on the day, we were going to push up right into this area. I thought we could have hit like 91 or 90, 50 or 91 at least. We didn't hit there, but I didn't want to see it come up here. And we'll kind of get into some of the other stuff real quick. I don't think there's necessarily as much to see. If we kind of look at the SPY, we can see here that it does look like we are more likely, well, we'll see what happens, but it does seem like we are more likely to start in this area. So if we do start between the two holes, I'm going to be a little, to me, it's not a bearish signal, but it's more bearish than anything. But if I had to put it on a scale, it's like a 2. But it is still like bearish, somewhat signal. It's not saying that's going to go down, but essentially that is more likely to range here. But that's for the S&P or the SPY. That doesn't really have to do it with anything else. So if other stuff comes down, that could also cause this to come down a little bit more. So what I don't like about Apple, I'm not surprised that it pushed up, but I didn't want to see it push up, hoping that it didn't. So we see right here on the day time frame anyway, as we raise this up, we can see Apple's a big determinant. Anyway, we can see a point of weakness here. There's a very ugly candle, and this is a very nice candle right here, or doji, whatever. And this is this is not. But regardless, we can see this huge area of just weakness right here. I'm not a huge fan of this. Will come up for maybe like a double bottom next day. But my issue with this is I think it's more, if I had to say right now, we'll see where things open, but I'm more likely to expect this to come down. I know China was up, so we'll kind of see what happens with this stuff. But from a week time frame perspective, we're overbought. I would like to see it come back down a little bit. That's what I would preferably like to see. I wanted to see the week time frame start here, and then we push up off of that, as opposed to a day time frame that pushes us into a position where we are right now, where we are currently, in my opinion, overbought in Apple. Does it mean it's going to get sold down? No, but to me, it means that there's a higher chance that it'll come down than it'll go up. Not because it's like bearish, just because it's not next to support on that time frame. I don't want to get too much in the holes. Is how I look at stuff. So this still looks fine for me. Like I was saying before, the area of weakness was right here. It wasn't breaking this, so it needed, in my opinion, also it needed to stay down here and start a week around here. That would have created an area of weakness. So I think next week we would have been ranging here, and then most likely we got that down, and the market would have kept moving up. So I actually think the dollar's in a pretty decent place right now to try to push up again. I definitely think it can push up. And another nice thing about here is in like a couple weeks, if it can stay up here, if this can get above, like into this area, it's like September. So like 3 weeks, so we can range here. I think this definitely is going to push up. So I think the dollar's better sitting here. NASDAQ, not much to see. We saw last week, this was our Monday buy, right? This was the start of everything last week, the Monday buy. And then we could see on Apple, right? We get pushed into the week time frame. We can see on the day time frame, we start up here. Not too much of a choice there, but to push up. So I don't think we're overbought on NASDAQ. It could come down a little bit. I don't think it's overbought just because this was a perfect starting point. When I see stuff like this, I don't like it to come back down to this level. I don't want it to test it. And I can see stuff like this going to the moon. I'm not saying it is, but that's how I see it with that stuff. So we go to AMD a little bit, and that AMD starts above it. So here's another little bit of bearishness here on AMD. Possibly it's still on an uptrend for what it is. If we look at like the day time frame, right, we can see here, if it can just push up a little bit more. It's on a current uptrend though from last week, which, I mean, it makes sense, right, with everything else pushing up. So yeah, AMD is another one that might be a little bit sketchy. We can check a video in a second. Let's take the Dow Jones, get that out of the way. Dow Jones, nothing too specific, still on somewhat of an uptrend for what it is. But for me, I'm not bearish if the Dow when and if the Dow Jones comes up to here. I'm not going to be bearish on it just because we already came up here. I think it'll look nice, but I'm not going to be super bullish on anything until we start a week up here. So nothing's changed on the Dow for me. I'm not really looking at that too much. NASDAQ looked good where it was in the week time frame, so I'm not really looking at that too much. I think the DXY looks really good where it is right now. The S&P is probably the next, like I said, the next best thing to like kind of see as a signal. So I'm going to be a little hesitant on Monday if we do start in this area. Bitcoin's a little sketch, which I think it should be. We can still come all the way down Like these are like the two levels before. So this is what here now. So we could still come down another. I don't know what this is. 4,000, I guess. It's still possible. 4,000 to like three to 4,000. It's possible. Stuff comes down. I don't like Bitcoin where it is. And another thing I really don't like is that this is the bounce spot that we've never touched. And what I really don't like about this is we're here, here, here. So what are we going to do here? My concern is just essentially just looking at this level and it's getting stuck here. And I would never buy it here, even though this looks like this is like the bounce spot just because of the price action coming down into this. I would need to see it come up into either somewhere here or here, and then this is an easy buy. But the problem is that if Bitcoin drops, it's not in the most optimal place. Price action wise, it's not in the most optimal place to be under this level. Here, that kind of evens it out. To be under like this level, if it comes down right now, especially with everything that it just had. So that's a little bit concerning. But for me, for Bitcoin, I think the easiest way to say is if when do I want to buy into Bitcoin? If I wanted to buy into Bitcoin, which I don't give a crap about, I'll just buy into Mara, right? Mara is the easy way to do it. We saw this yesterday, right? We got it on, what was it, Monday? Yeah, got it on Monday, got out, right? Pretty standard. That's what you do, right? To my opinion, there's not much point in trading Bitcoin. It doesn't make any sense to me to trade Bitcoin when you can trade Mara, which moves with the market and with Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin's stagnant, the market's moving up, Mara will most likely move up also as well, unless Bitcoin is pretty sketchy. So this is a better choice. This is also sketchy as hell. I'm not going to get into it too much anymore. There's not really much else to say. It's just bad. I don't know why anyone would I mean, I guess I could say at the end of the week or the beginning of the week if someone wanted to buy it. What I didn't like about it is that I didn't want to see stuff keep pushing up. So not a big fan of the price action. So just because something goes up doesn't mean it's good, right? Like if you think about maybe not. Nah, I don't know. But you think about you want power going up, if you can kind of load that spring in a sense. So, right, sometimes going up, it's better to load the spring instead of just, go up. Obviously, it's known, but just to kind of explain it in that manner. I don't think there's really a lot for the VIX. I mean, it kind of made sense from this perspective that we'd see a little bit of a pullback. I don't know. I personally, right now, I don't want to get into the VIX too much. I don't think there's a buy or sell signal anywhere specifically from the VIX. I still think there's a high chance of coming down. I think it's like 10.5 or 11.5, I think it was. Yeah, 11.5. We'll see, though. I'm personally, I don't care about the VIX whatsoever at all. We saw it in, was it April 24th, I believe, here. And, we could kind of get an idea maybe from here, but this was the only time I really cared about the VIX showing anything. So I saw something the other day where they were talking about oil not going under 80, but if the dollar goes up, I could definitely see oil going under 80. So I'm not really sure where they're getting that from. But it's interesting. So we'll kind of see what happens. I mean, I'm not a big fan of this. This is not something I would have bought into. So, I mean, I'm pretty strict on this stuff. So because it started here, this is something I wouldn't have bought into whatsoever at all. Short it because it's an uptrend, but I wouldn't have bought into that. So I would have missed out on it, I guess, but it's not something that I'd specifically look for. So in that same kind of sense, I do believe there is some weakness if it does strike back in these areas. Oh, it's so ugly. I have too many lines I have to readjust because I just haven't done it in a while. This is nice from the day time frame. You have an exit position and then you have an entry position. That's about almost as good as it gets. That's interesting. It's on a day time frame though, as opposed to the week and the month. But I'm still sketched on it just because I could see a reversal and I could see the dollar or DXY going up, whatever DXY dollar index. I guess we can check Nvidia. I mean, that's mainly the core that we just saw so far. I don't think there's really a lot else to necessarily say about it. I like the way it looks right now. I'm not entirely a huge. We'll see what happens. It's starting right here isn't something I particularly like if the market pushes down, but if it pushes up, I mean, this could be pretty strong. So maybe we see some bullish signals, or maybe the S&P could start over those holes. This might be a decent entry point, but to be honest, I mean, here and here are both entry points, but it kind of is what it is. This one was, I think, maybe I might be wrong this one. I don't remember. August 13th, 14th. I think this was a NASDAQ. Was this NASDAQ? Was it back here? No, that was June. No, it definitely wasn't either of these. No. 7th of the 14th. I thought there was something at some point. Maybe it was a SPY. No, it wasn't any of those. Huh. I feel like there was something. The 14th. Did everything drop and that really just pushed up? Interesting. NASDAQ do that also? I don't remember that. That's interesting. I remember this, and I remember seeing this, and this was pretty obvious. I wouldn't have messed with this, right? The same concept before. I don't care showing that stuff I would have missed out on. I really don't care. But I feel like there was something, but I guess not. That's interesting. I definitely, and never in my life would I have bought this. That's so interesting. I definitely never would have. That is super interesting. So it pushed up when everything else pushed down. The 7th, the 14th. Interesting. Super interesting. Okay. Well, I don't think there's going to be a specific signal for this, so I'm not specifically looking for it. But it does look strong. I am sketched on it, but it looks strong. If I had to put money on it, I'd say it's going up, but we'll see. The big ones that I'm super interested in, I think, have a decent amount of potential are the MasterCard and the Visa, though we are a little bit too far up, and this kind of adds to the same thing as before. I wouldn't have bought into this. I think there's a little bit of weakness in these areas. It kind of is what it is. I mean, I guess I could see it pushing up just anyway, but it's not the way I want to see it. So we'll kind of see what happens. It's similar here with Visa as well. I also think we have a decent range here. So, but I'd like to see I'd like to see stuff come down. So I don't think stuff's super bearish if it comes down in the morning or whatever, or in the beginning of the week. I would just like to see stuff come down though, just to like test and come back to support. Because there's no point in, I don't know. There's certain places you shouldn't sell. It's fine to sell here or here, but why would you like sell there? So right. I guess Google. We saw Google, so there's no buy sign for Google, right? Because I mean, if you're gonna buy Google, you should have got it on Monday with the week time frame. I guess we saw the same thing on Microsoft too. Now that I remember about it as well, so same thing. No buy signal on Microsoft this coming week because we have the buy signal down here, right? We start above buy signal, or entry point, whatever. I think that's pretty much it. I'm not really sure if anything else. Those are the ones I'm looking for. I don't really feel like wasting too much time or going over this too much. I really don't like. We'll see when everything opens. I really don't care right now. Like, but this is what I'm looking for, and these are the things that I'm going to look over fairly quickly to try to see, what position I want to take. So it's not going to take long, right? I'm just looking at where a couple of things are opening. Mainly, this the S and or the Spire S&P is what I'm going to be mainly focused on. So I'm most likely going to be bearish in tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. So we could see an extended push up, but that just sketches me because then we're getting more and more and more overbought by some metrics, but not all. So the NASDAQ is the only reason. NASDAQ, Google, like we saw, NASDAQ, Microsoft, Google, I think those, yeah, right? So we saw it with those anyway. So right, we just saw the Microsoft one a second ago, but with those week starts, right? Week start, this was pretty decent for what it was. So I could still see just honestly just stuff pushing up. It would be not from here on that side though. It would be a little tragic, but we'll see. So hopefully stuff sells down a little bit. I think the market can easily handle it. Um, it's really hard to say. I guess like the only other thing I think in the back of my mind, contrary to that, is like, gosh, if the market sells down, does that like push us up? So maybe if this can like kind of trickle down a little bit, and then the market sells off, and then this pushes back up a little bit to kind of counteract. It is a little bit concerning though. And then like a second ago, I was looking at USD/JPY, and that's a little bit concerning too in the back of my head. So who knows what's going to happen with this? Because this is a huge boon for the dollar. I mean, this is disgusting. I mean, at 85, $1 is 250 yen. I mean, we could easily come back. Was it 180 to 204? So this is always something, and I mean, this it could stop here. I highly doubt it. I think it's more likely that it stops around 180 right here, or we come up to the 2618 around 204. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. I might see you guys tomorrow. We'll kind of see what happens. I'll probably be on, not in the morning though, maybe like 11 or something, or 11:30. I don't know. We'll see, but pretty much everything that I just went over is everything that I'm looking at more or less, unless I'm looking at like a side one. Like the other time I was looking to buy, I saw Mara and blah 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 blah. Right, so if stuff looks if the indices look good to buy for me, and we look like we're going to go up in a couple other big ones, then I'll look for whatever seems to have the most volatility or potential. And so this is pretty much everything that I'm looking at for tomorrow. So whether I stream or not, this is pretty much it. Even from the video I put out, I think last Friday or something, it was the same thing. I didn't stream on Monday. You didn't need me to stream on Monday because I already said what I was looking for. Right? We talked about the Google start and the Microsoft start, and right, what's wrong? I'm skilling. What do we have? Right? We had the Nasdaq, Microsoft, Google start, all that. So anyway, take care, y'all. Hopefully, I think I'm gonna get a new microphone or something soon. For some reason, it sounds like I'm in a. When I hear it, it sounds like I'm in a auditorium. It's really weird. Anyway, take care, y'all. Have a good night and peace.